OT2 was another bizarre level on which I had to audit some curious things, including the arrow, the woman, the white-black sphere, hot-cold, laughter-calm, dance mob, and the double rod. I soon finished and attested to being an OT2 completion. I gave my success speech to cheers in the lobby of the AO. Now I was ready for the great leap into the unknown. I was ready for OT3, on which I would learn the secret of the universe which had eluded man for millions of years. I had a friend, an older man named Les, who volunteered to come with me during my first day on OT3 and coach me on the materials. We drove together to the AO. "Nervous?" he asked, lighting a cigarette. "Yeah, a little. I've only been waiting 10 years to do this level," I answered. "Well, just think, in another hour or so you will know the great secret. You will be one of us." He winked at me. At the AO, I first had to find the locked room where the materials for OT3 were kept, a small closet just across from the OT3 course room. He escorted me across the hall, and I knocked on the door of the OT3 classroom. The door was unlocked to let me in, then locked again behind me. I am quite sure that not even the Pentagon has better security than Scientology. Les was saving me a seat in the classroom. I sat down, unlocked my briefcase, and pulled out the treasured envelope. Smiling at Les, I opened the envelope and pulled out several pages, which were copies of pages handwritten by Hubbard. I began to read.
"Welcome home, beloved of God. Welcome to a place where sin and Satan cannot enter. Welcome to a place where death cannot come. Welcome to a place where loneliness is never felt. Welcome to
Mondo Diablo.
This week is part 2 of The Road to Xenu by Margery Wakefield, but before we get into that, I need to speak about something completely unrelated. It's an article I just read on MSNBC. A new study on the effects of religiosity on the decision to have an abortion reveals more inconsistencies. Right. Unwed pregnant teens and 20-somethings who attend or have graduated from private religious schools are more likely to obtain abortions than their peers from public schools, according to research in the June issue of the Journal of Health and Social Behavior. Wonder if they're doing something right or something wrong. This research suggests that young unmarried women are confronted with a number of social, financial, and health-related factors that can make it difficult for them to act according to religious values when deciding whether to keep or abort a pregnancy, said the study's author, sociologist Amy Adamczyk of John Jay College of Criminal Justice and the Graduate Center, City University of New York. She examined how personal religious involvement, schoolmate religious involvement, and school type influenced the pregnancy decisions of a sample of 1,504 unmarried and never divorced women aged 26 and younger from 125 different schools. The women ranged in age from 14 to 26 at the time they discovered they were pregnant. 25% of women in this sample reported having an abortion, a likely underestimate, she said. More on this at the end of the podcast.
Russian rocket. AA battery packs in my pocket. Fresh like a supermarket. Don't make sense at all, well fuck it. I'm sorry about her phony mails, but I love to see your ponytails in motion, up and down, while I take you to fucking town. Roller coasting, sandwich toasting, getting up on stage and disco ghosting. Posting on my blog, baby about shake a tree and up it up. Cause I'm fancy, trancy, underpantsy, dirty like a sidewalk on Delancey. Cracky, wacky, what the hecky? Last name birthday girls call me Tracky. Nightlife, we just fear it. Smells like teens without spirit. But don't you be afraid, Tracky birthday gon' make you sweat till late. With his armpit beaver, disco fever, rockin' till I convince every disbeliever. So please may I suggest to the ladies in this room to shake your chest. Crack, taking a shit outside your door. He said, hey cocksucker, get lost motherfucker, I told you once before. He just looks up right at you while squeezing out the biggest shit. He asks you for a light, you go back inside while the guy takes another hit. He goes 1 for the money, 2 for the money, 3 for the money, and 4 for the money. Wasn't ever about anything but the money. Hip hop be more commercial than the Easter Bunny. Let's rock. You don't stop, make your fat asses go pop, lock and drop. What the fuck is up and Tracky B? I'm the Uber, YouTuber, Doogie Howser, German Schnauzer, Schnitzel Stroganoff, Hasselhoff, Mazel Tov, Molotov, cocktail, pot, whale. Better go home and inhale that stuff
that you like to.
Nobody can dance like Nobody can dance.
Nobody can dance.
Nobody can dance like.
I like the way you move, girl. Shake it up, come on.
Nobody can dance.
Nobody can dance.
Nobody can dance.
Like you, that is.
Nobody can dance like.
That's right. Break it down, will ya?
Head of the Galactic Federation, 76 planets around larger stars visible from here, founded 95 million years ago, very space opera, solved overpopulation, 250 billion or so per planet, 178 billion on average, by mass implanting. He caused people to be brought to Tijiak, Earth, and put an H-bomb on the principal volcanoes, Incident 2, and then the Pacific area ones were taken in boxes to Hawaii, and the Atlantic ones to Las Palmas, and there packaged. His name was Xenu. He used renegades. Various misleading data by means of circuits, etc., was placed in the implants. Went through with his crime-loyal officers to the people, captured him after 6 years of battle, and put him in an electronic mountain trap where he still is. They are gone. The place, Confederation, has since been a desert. The length and brutality of it all was such that this Confederation never recovered. The implant is calculated to kill, by pneumonia, etc., anyone who attempts to solve it. This liability has been dispensed with by my tech development. One can freewheel through the implant and die unless it is approached as precisely outlined. The freewheel, auto-running on and on, lasts too long, denies sleep, etc., and one dies. So be careful to do only incidents 1 and 2 as given, and not plow around and fail to complete one thetan at a time. In December 1967, I knew someone had to take the plunge. I did and emerged very knocked out but alive, probably the only one ever to do so in 75 million years. I have all the data now, but only that given here is needful.
The following is completely secret and absolutely serious. It is the story of the universe, as described in the most sacred literature of the Church of Scientology. 75 million years ago, there was an evil galactic ruler who ruled 76 planets, and his name was Prince Xenu. Prince Xenu had a problem with overpopulation, so he quickly devised a diabolical solution. This is the way that it began, long before the dawn of man. And if you're sure to listen hard, you'll learn the truth of what you are. Xenu brought the people to his palace and served them a special brew. They all drank it down and found they couldn't move. Xenu stacked the paralyzed bodies around the base of volcanoes. He lowered hydrogen bombs in and blew them all up so all the souls left their bodies and flew into outer space. They traveled for millions of years. They traveled to many places. And when their traveling was through, they all found homes in humans. Now they're in our bodies. We call these souls thetans. This is the way that it began, long before the dawn of man. And if you're sure to listen hard, you'll learn the truth of what you are. Now with the teachings of Hellbound, we can set these souls free from here. Our teachings are holding us down. Without them, our minds can be clear. This is the way that it began, long before the dawn of man. And if you're sure to listen hard, you'll learn the truth of what you are. This is the way that it began, long before the dawn of man. And if you're sure to listen hard, you'll learn the truth of what you are.
One's body is a mass of individual thetans stuck to oneself or to the body. One has to clean them off by running Incident 2 and Incident 1. It is a long job, requiring care, patience, and good auditing. You are running beings. They responded like any pre-clear, some large, some small. Thetans believed they were one. This is the primary error. Good luck. The remaining pages in the packet I have been given elaborated the detailed procedures to be used in auditing out one's body thetans. Break came, and I was feeling very perplexed as I followed Les out of the building. "Well, what do you think?" he asked eagerly. I was feeling very strange. I'd been programmed under hypnosis for 10 years to accept as gospel everything said or written by Hubbard. I'd paid thousands of dollars to gain access to the privileged OT-free material. I was programmed to believe, but the materials were too absurd to be believed. The result was that my mind, like a computer which has come upon data impossible to analyze, simply refused to compute. I felt as if my mind had been completely shut down. I had an eerie sensation of mental floating, of being mentally suspended in time and space. Hubbard had jammed my mind, and from that point I became a total pawn, not able to think. I was a completely programmable stimulus response machine. I had become a robot, or to use the phrase now popular among ex-Scientologists, a rondroid. I feel sort of strange, I said to Les. I feel like I'm floating. I'm not sure I understand what I just read. What didn't you understand? Well, is he saying that because this guy Xenu, millions of years ago, blew up thousands of thetans and caused them to become clustered together, that now everyone on Earth is some kind of multiple personality, and that what we have to do now is audit all these other thetans stuck to us so that they can leave and go get their own bodies? Exactly, Les looked at me proudly. You understand it just fine. You see, everything in Scientology has been leading up to this level. The purpose of your lower grades was to erase some of the lighter charge from your mind, and power enabled the dominant being in the cluster to separate out so that you could audit the rest of the guys. You mean that everyone on the upper levels is just auditing to get rid of their body thetans? I was still incredulous. Well, you have to do it to appreciate what it will do for you. You won't believe how good and clean you will feel after a few hours of OT3. He put his arm around my shoulder. Kind of reminds me of a dog getting rid of its fleas, I remarked. Somehow, it's just not what I had expected. I closed my eyes. Soon I felt a pressure on my head, or imagined I did. There was a flicker on the meter. I concentrated on making telepathic contact with the disembodied being. Was it Hawaii or Las Palmas? I asked the invisible thetan, watching my meter for a reaction. Las Palmas. Good, I acknowledged him. Then I had him visualize Incident 2. If I got a floating needle, it meant that the body Thetan had left me. If the needle didn't float, then I had to audit the Thetan on incident 1. I tried to do my best at this procedure, but I was soon in trouble. "You're going to need a review," the tech sec looked at me seriously.
I went down to my girlfriend's house, took it along with me. Just me and my old guitar, as happy as could be. It was a day the sun was hot, the weather was so clear. I walked right up and singing out loud and yielding that mountaineer. Oh, the little 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 I climb all over the mountain, climb the biggest tree. You might think that I'm crazy, but I'm happy as can be. I used to go out hunting and carry my shotgun and spear. I could hypnotize a rattlesnake yelling at mountaineer. I went out in the mountain, 45 on my side. I was hunting for that rattlesnake I missed the other night. I started back at 12 o'clock, not a sound could I hear. So then I knew I had him yelling at mountaineer. So now with my old guitar, I'll have to say so long. The next time you hear from me, it'll probably be at home. For I have played on the radio, my friends will listen near. They're waiting for me to play this song and you'll let mountaineer.
I walked glumly from the AO back to my house. I was scheduled for a review tomorrow. I was still experiencing the strange floating feeling. My mind was still suspended. I could not think. Lately, I'd been having strange nightmares. I was feeling more and more peculiar, and it was getting worse. In my review, it was found that I had overrun the last body Thetan I was auditing. This was corrected, and I was sent back to my house to continue the auditing. After several more sessions, I managed to obtain a dial-wide floating needle and was declared to be an OT3 completion. But where were my gains? Why wasn't I able to leave my body at will as had been advertised? Where were my psychic abilities? "This isn't working," I complained to the examiner. "You have to find out what's wrong." I started to complain to other students who were on the same level. "It's not working for me. Is it working for you?" "Yes," they would answer. "It's incredible. I'm having incredible wins." In the warped logic of a Scientologist, it was forbidden to think that there might be something wrong with the tech. In other words, it was forbidden to think or say that the Emperor had no clothes. Therefore, there must be something wrong with me. But what? One night I had an especially bad nightmare, and my screaming woke half the building. I was sent for another review. The next day I woke up to find a Sea Org member stationed outside my room. "What's going on?" I asked her. "I've been posted here," she answered. "You'd been ordered to stay in your room. Your meals are going to be brought up here." "But why?" I asked. "Until your case has been straightened out," she answered tersely. I went back in the room and sat down on the bed. Maybe, I thought excitedly, maybe they're going to send me over the rainbow, the Scientology code words to refer to the location, unknown to anyone except a very few select Sea Org members, where Hubbard was in hiding. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, my female guard was replaced by another Sea Org member, this one a stocky male.
And for her heart they used a rose. The blue of the sky they used for her eyes, and for her disposition they used sweetest breezes time. They made her sweeter and sweeter, oh sweet thing, and then said that she could be mine. And as long as heaven's above, I will honor, keep in love that bundle of southern sunshine.
The day went by, 2 days, a week, then 3 weeks. I paced in the room and slept to pass the time. One night I looked outside the door where the guard was posted and found to my surprise that my guard for the evening, a young man in uniform, was sound asleep. It was after 12 o'clock and the building was quiet. I crept past the sleeping guard and went out the side door of the building. I walked nonchalantly past the night watchman. A block away, I realized that I was free, but where to go? I couldn't go to the suppressive police. I had no money, and it was nearly 1 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't think. I walked a few blocks to a small deck on the bay belonging to a nearby condominium complex. I took off my shoes and sat on the edge of the deck, dangling my bare feet in the cool water. I looked out over the bay at the twinkling night lights. The water lapped rhythmically onto the shore. The sky was cloudless and starry. It was a picture of complete peace, a soothing contrast to the chaos churning inside me. I sat there for an hour, 2 hours. I tried to think, but thinking didn't produce any new options. After a while, I began to feel chilled. Slowly, feeling defeated, I made my way back to the hotel. One night, shortly after my midnight venture, I was given the order to pack my things. The next morning, I was shuffled into a waiting van. 3 guards rode with me in the back of the van. "Where are we going?" I asked curiously. "To the airport," was the curt reply. We disembarked at Tampa International Airport. I was escorted to the waiting area for Northwest Airlines. I noticed the destination marked behind the ticket check-in counter, Detroit, Michigan. "What?" I looked at my guards in confusion. "We located your parents," one of the guards said to me in an emotionless voice.
blow my mind. You're all just one of a kind, going nowhere real fast. Hey, punks, get off the grass. Who in the hell do you think you are? I'm Queen of Punk, and you better know who you really are. Going nowhere real fast. Hey, punks, get off the grass. To me, you don't see what you can be, going nowhere real fast. Don't you see, going nowhere real fast? Hey, punk, get off the grass. Punks like you just blow my mind. You're all just one of a kind, going nowhere real fast.
You're to go back to Michigan? Here are your instructions. I was handed a thick packet of materials. The plane was boarding. One of the guards put his hand around my arm and directed me toward the waiting plane. The two other guards disappeared. I flew with my guard to Michigan, where my father was waiting for me at the airport. The guard immediately booked a return flight to Florida. I rode silently beside my father on the 40-minute drive to Lansing, where my family was now living. I opened up the packet I had been given at the airport. It was a list of instructions about 30 pages long. I was to pay back Scientology $30,000 for all services I had taken as a staff member. I was to read a long list of books and write reviews of each one. I was to run, take vitamins, and write a new list of all my overts, both in this lifetime and in my past lives. The English language, devoid of the liberally sprinkled Scientology words and phrases I was accustomed to, sounded strange to my ears. I had the peculiar feeling when watching television that I was somehow listening to a foreign language, yet I knew all the words. I did not know how to deal with the fact that I was back in the WOG world after an absence of 12 years. One night I gathered all my Scientology certificates that I had brought with me on the plane and laid them out on my bed. Realizing that they had nothing to do with the vocational currency of the WOG world, I impulsively took them down to the fireplace and burned them one by one, watching as the fire curled the edges of the heavy papers and transformed them into equally worthless ash. I was still experiencing the uncomfortable mental phenomena that had originated on OT3. Sometimes it would seem as if my mind were disintegrating into 1,000 tiny pieces which imploded into an eternal cosmos.
Here's to the finest crew in Starfleet. Engage.
Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the USS Enterprise. Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the USS Enterprise.
Make it so. Make it so. Make it so. Make it so.
The first duty of every Starfleet officer is to the truth. Scientific truth, or historical truth, or personal truth. It is the guiding principle on which Starfleet is based. And you can't find it within yourself to stand up, tell the truth. You don't deserve to wear that uniform.
This is becoming a speech.
You're the captain, sir. You're entitled.
I'm entitled to ramble on about something everyone knows.
Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the USS Enterprise. Captain Jean-Luc Picard of
just kept talking in one long, incredibly unbroken sentence, moving from topic to topic so that no one had the chance to interrupt. It was really quite hypnotic. Incredibly unbroken sentence, moving from topic to topic, incredibly unbroken sentence, moving from topic to topic, moving from topic to topic, quite hypnotic. Incredibly unbroken sentence, moving from topic to topic, incredibly unbroken sentence, moving from topic to topic, moving from topic to topic, quite hypnotic. Incredibly unbroken sentence, moving from topic to topic, incredibly unbroken sentence, moving from topic to topic, moving from topic to topic, quite hypnotic.
Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the USS Enterprise. Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the USS Enterprise.
Make it so. Make it so. Make it so. Make it so.
You'll have to call again. I'm just leaving. I'm not dressed properly.
My love is a fever, longing still for that which longer nurseth the disease.
You'll have to call again.
In faith, I do not love thee. With mine eyes vain be 1,000 errors see. But 'tis my heart that loves what they despise. In despite of view, are pleased to know. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day?
You'll have to call again.
Darmok, Angelad, at Tanagra. Darmok, Angelad, at Tanagra. Darmok, Angelad, at Tanagra. Darmok, Angelad, at Tanagra. I am Locutus aboard. You will respond to my questions. I am Locutus aboard. You aboard. I am Locutus aboard. You will assist us. I am Locutus aboard. You aboard. I am Locutus aboard. Lock phases on that vessel. I am Locutus aboard. There are 4 lights.
Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the USS Enterprise. Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the USS Enterprise.
Make it so. Make it so. Make it so. Make it so.
Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the USS Enterprise. Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the USS Enterprise.
Make it so. Make it so. Make it so. Make it so.
Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the USS Enterprise. Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the USS Enterprise.
Make it so. Make it so.
Jean-Luc Picard.
Instinctively, my father had brought me the jigsaw puzzle, and for 2 weeks I did nothing else than assemble the intricate pieces. Symbolically, I was attempting to assemble the scattered fragments of my mind. I wrote a letter to the Director of Technical Services at Flag. Would they please reconsider their action and allow me to return to Flag? I pleaded. A week later, I received my reply. No, I was informed in a short and terse note. I was to continue with the program that had been given to me when I left Florida. When the program was completed, I could then reapply for membership in Scientology. The letter was written on official Sea Org letterhead. Let's talk about Hubbard, he began. And for the next hour, he told me things about Hubbard that I had never known. That he was not the person he had portrayed himself to be. Point by point, we went through the biography of Hubbard that I had been exposed to in the cult. According to Frank, almost everything Hubbard had said about himself was a lie, and Frank had the documents to prove it. His grandfather, I read, did not own a cattle ranch 1/4 the size of Montana. Hubbard grew up in a house in an average small Montana town. He did not travel extensively in Asia as a teenager. his travels were mostly in his imagination, and he was not the decorated war hero he had portrayed himself to be. In fact, his war record was deplorable, and the end of the war found him in a Navy psychiatric ward. There were hundreds of lies. But why would he lie to us? I asked incredulously. It was true, I thought. I never questioned the things he told us about himself. It never even occurred to me to question him. I just blindly believed. I looked at the failing transcript of Hubbard's college record. He had told us he was one of the first students of nuclear physics, yet according to his transcript he had failed the course. And there was a damaging letter he had written to the Veterans Administration begging for psychiatric help, complaining of periods of moroseness and suicidal inclinations. I sat with Frank for hours that day as my God was systematically dethroned. Hubbard, I learned, was a bigamist and a Satanist. He had been married simultaneously to both his first and second wife. Frank showed me proof that Hubbard was deeply involved in the occult, performing satanic rituals devised by his mentor, the English Satanist Aleister Crowley. Yet I still couldn't let go. Fighting against Scientology can be hazardous. Since initiating litigation against the church 10 years ago, I've learned new meanings for the word harassment, ranging from the macabre to the ridiculous. On one steamy Florida summer night several years ago, I returned to my apartment late at night to find the door wide open. No one seemed to be inside. Nothing in the apartment appeared to be disturbed. However, when I went into the bedroom, I saw that a dark red liquid had been splashed against the bedroom wall just beside the bed. It was blood, and it was still wet and still dripping. On other occasions, Scientologists have come to my apartment or accosted me at the mall where I worked. Sometimes they would call my boss and ask when and from which door I would be leaving. Occasionally, they would wait for me and come up to me as I walked to my car. On 2 occasions, my life was threatened. If you don't drop your lawsuit against the church, I was told, you know what will happen to you.
means we'll all have fun today. Now sing it with me. We take turns, we take turns, we always take our turns. There are some people we don't like to play with. There are the whinies who bore people so. They whine and whine and whine. They whimper if anyone tells them no. They whine and whine and whine. When they don't get their way, trouble begins, and this is a certain sign. With tears in their eyes and with quivering chins, they whine and whine and whine. Then there's smash and rip and ruin. Smash and rip and ruin haven't learned to play. They're just being foolish when they act that way. Smash breaks everything in view. Rip tears everything in two. Ruin splashes everything with paint and ink. Why don't smash and rip and ruin stop and think? Why don't smash and rip and ruin stay away till they learn how to play? When we finished playing, we remember that our toys belong in boxes, in cupboards or shelves. And when we finish playing, we put them back ourselves. We put them back ourselves. Our toys belong in boxes and we put them back ourselves. We know that we have feelings, and we remember too that our friends the animals have feelings just the same as you. We don't like to be hungry, oh, we remember that. Well, neither does a pony, nor a puppy, nor a cat. When we go visiting, this is what we do. When we pay a visit, we enjoy each minute so. But after we have stayed a while, it's time for us to go. We thank them for the lovely time, on that they can rely. We thank them as we're leaving. Then we say goodbye, goodbye, and thank you. Goodbye, and thank you. Goodbye, and thank you. We had a lovely time. When night comes, everything goes to bed. The ducks, the horses, the cows, the chickens, the birds, and boys and girls. Everything goes to bed. When it is bedtime, we don't stand about and pout and pout. When it is bedtime, we don't make a fuss, not us, not us. No sighs, no cries, like whinies who dabble their eyes. When baths are through and good nights are said, we happily hop into bed. Having good manners is getting along, enjoying just being with others, being as nice as we possibly can to babies and sisters and brothers. Having good manners is really a game to play with everyone, and the more we play it, the more fun it is, for manners can be fun.
They didn't use the word kill. They didn't have to. From my experience working for the Guardian's office, now renamed the Office of Special Affairs, I knew what they meant. Twice my car had been vandalized. I've received threatening phone calls at all hours of the night and day. Ominously, mail has been sent to my siblings who have small children, and in the most recent campaign against me, someone has been leaving my phone numbers on the beepers of various men in my city, resulting in some curious late-night phone calls. Last week, I was wandering through the flea market at the local university. Once a week, the university sponsors an open-air flea market where vendors can sell their wares, and students can buy inexpensive clothes, plants, and books, etc. Last week I noticed a new display. A young man was selling Dianetics books to the students. And as I watched, a young girl, perhaps 17 or 18 years old, was listening raptly to the Scientologist's spiel. There was a forlorn air about her, an air of one who is lost and who is seeking. Instantly I was thrust into a time warp, as I watched myself 20-some years earlier, listening transfixed to the beguiling message of hope and promise. She reached out for the book. "Excuse me," I ran after her through the crowded market. She looked at me in surprise. "That book you have there," I pointed to the Dianetics book. "That book is about a dangerous cult, Scientology. I know because I was in it for 12 years. She looked suspicious. "Look," I continued, pleading, desperate to save her myself. "Here, I'll give you $5 you paid for the book. You don't need it. It's a cult. I don't want you to have to go through what I've been through." She smiled and handed me the book. "Fine," she said as she took my money, "and thanks." Then she disappeared into the crowd. I walked over to the trash bin and buried the book deep inside the bin. Then I too turned and walked into the crowd. If only, I couldn't help thinking, if only someone had been able to warn me. But I had the great satisfaction of knowing that, because of my experience, there would be one less victim of Scientology. And maybe that one is enough.
The neck. Helena's got a face like a bad train wreck, like a jack-o'-lantern after 3 weeks in the trash. Wrinkled, reeking, hinged and leaking, stinking like her gash. Corrupt and corroded below the waist. Carbon's got a clam no man could possibly taste, like an Arby's beef and cheddar sandwich left out in the rain. Her droopy labia hang. Her palsied pudenda is like meat in a blender. Her distended vagina is encrusted with grime, and it spews a clear slime from the front, from behind, from her mouth, from her mind. Every time she drops that line, what are your crimes? Bitch.
Or is he just a man with his Satan in his hand? He can fuck a can of Spam with his OT ability.
He can mount his mother with a clam-like agility.
He says that he can travel to another world, but instead he stays home dressed like a little girl. He can put a red-hot poker right against his penis while stretching out his anus with Rod's butt plug from Venus.
A sad little runt, little cunt in a sailor suit. If it wasn't so pathetic and he was 10, it would be cute. But he's not too cute with his tongue up Hubbard's poop chute. Dead for 16 years, Dave licks his rear for hidden loot. $1 million bail to stay out of a Spanish jail, to keep the cocks out of his tail. Cause he'll only be a bottom if Miscavige is the top, and he can't get an erection till his mommy's there to watch. You talk about my mother that way, that is absolutely unconscionable. Hemorrhage, a rotten stench comes drifting from his lips. Is it shit or just a tumor? tumor from asbestos on his ship. You know it's not a rumor, even though he's getting old, that he mounts that midget's pole while he works the glory hole.
Commodore rim job. Commodore rim job. Commodore rim job. Commodore rim job.
The Commodore's a boring whore with all eyes shut and anus sore. A sorry washed out wimpish boozer, mama's boy, a lying loser, living lost in his delusion, fist and anus doing fusion, freaking on a body fate, bloated ego fat with hate, an absolute disgusting turd, a lie found in his every word, a bullshit babbling braggart bitch, back peddler, a little snitch. Deranged, arranged his cosmic pitch, it caused a glitch up in his head. So long, Elron, you con, you're gone, and we're so glad you're dead.
Visceral in massive doses failed to stifle Ron's psychosis. Band-aid on his flabby ass was hiding 15 needle tracks. Strange evidence came in from the coroner's report. Apparently in death, Ron had received his just reward.
There were 400 types of semen in Elron's ass. Every man in the sea orchid made their pass. There was one type of saliva on Elron's ass. If you tested Dave Miscavige, you know it would match.
Dave was the last in line to fill Ron with his semen. Then he dropped onto his knees and then he feasted like a demon. One last rim job was the Commodore's request, and his rigor mortis anus would get his successor's best.
Commodore rim job. Commodore rim job. Commodore rim job. Commodore rim job. Commodore rim job.
Fuck you, David Miscavige.
Commodore rim job.
Fuck you, Heber Jench.
Commodore rim job.
Fuck you, Elena Cobrin.
Commodore rim job.
God, you're fucking ugly.
Commodore rim job.
Fuck you, Kendrick Moxon.
Commodore rim job.
Fuck you, Mary DeMoss.
Commodore rim job.
Fuck you, L. Ron Hubbard.
Commodore rim job.
Fuck you.
To continue the article I started reading before. Results revealed no significant link between a young woman's reported decision to have an abortion and her personal religiosity, as defined by her religious involvement, frequency of prayer, and perception of religion's importance. Adamczyk said that this may be partially explained by the evidence that personal religiosity delays the timing of first sex, thereby shortening the period of time in which religious women are sexually active outside of marriage. Despite the absence of a link between personal religious devotion and abortion, religious affiliation did have some important influence. Adamczyk found that conservative Protestants were more likely to decide to have an extramarital baby in their 20s than in their teenage years. The values of conservative Protestant classmates seems to have an abortion-limiting effect on women in their 20s, but not in their teens, presumably because the educational and economic costs of motherhood are reduced as young women grow older, Adamczyk said. So what's my conclusion? Well, despite professing major moral objections to abortion, despite the claims that abortion is murder, the only people who really believe that is true are people who don't have to make such decisions. Men, older people, people who are not sexually active. A belief unchallenged is a strong belief. Besides, it's always your kids the fundies want to educate. Their good Christian kids can take care of themselves as long as their Eddie Haskell kids are smart enough to tell them what they want to hear. But the religious right, if they don't start pulling the wool over their own eyes, will continue to make closeted gay political leaders, and hence miserable marriages, resulting in most of the divorces in the US, and hence the most miserable kids, who, if they actually follow the advice of the dumbass sex education teachers the Bush administration made us pay for, will also have the highest incidences of STUs, or STIs, I mean, resulting from saddlebacking. Saddlebacking is a new term defined as the phenomenon of Christian teens engaging in unprotected anal sex in order to preserve their virginities. Used in a sentence: after attending the purity ball, Heather and Bill saddlebacked all night because she's saving herself for marriage. Unfortunately, her parents found out because they got Santorum all over the sheets. See you next week.